Welcome to our international teaching series right here on Rewind the Lesson. In this exciting series, we are bringing South African teachers face to face with incredible opportunities beyond our borders. From innovative teaching methods to enriching cultural experiences, we are exploring it all. Join us as we chat with teachers who have ventured abroad, sharing their stories, insights, and of course, tips to inspire your own journey. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss an episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rewind the Lesson. My name is Margaret, and today we've got Nomonde here with us, and we're going to be discussing all things education, teaching in South Africa, teaching abroad. A little bit about Nomonde. She's a third grade homeschool teacher, currently residing in China, but she is a proud South African qualified educator. How are you doing, Nomonde?
Hi, Margaret. I'm doing well, thank you. Such a nice intro. I'm just sitting here like thinking, she's talking about me, describing me like that. Like, yeah, no. So yeah, and I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a long time coming. We've been trying to get everything in and
Yes.
have the chat. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's a wonderful platform to, you know, for us educators to have and share.
Now, I would like for you to share a little bit about your background. I feel like even with the intro, I didn't throw all your accolades in there. However, you are a qualified miss. Not only do you have a B.Ed, you've got a master's. So we've got quite a lot to unpack today and talk about. So yeah, before we get into all of that, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. Who is Nomonde Mpela?
Okay, so Nomonde, born and raised in the East Rand, a township called Tembisa, 1632. Um,
Yeah, you.
it's that poo 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 poo. Yeah, so yeah, I had my all my schooling done in that, in the East Rand, and yeah, so I went straight into education, like straight from high school, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's UP, and that's when I did my B.Ed as well as my honors degree in education, and more recently my master's degree. Yeah, so that's me. But yeah, so growing up as well, I think I've always been like somewhat an overachiever. I think
Yeah.
in primary schools, I think it was quite apparent that this one, yeah, she's for the books. So it kind of makes sense, to kind of continue that. Yeah, so I went to law school, Yachbak Primary, and then Norcom Park High School. And I think it was in high school that I actually discovered my love for education. And I think also in my background lies the heavy influence from my grandfather, who was, a teacher for all my life. Well, his life, because he's passed now, but doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, so for as long as I knew him,
Yeah.
so I think it was always kind of cool to be just kind of around him, and stuff. I don't think when I was younger I had a, whole love for it, but it was one particular instance that happened in high school that kind of made me go, this is it. I'm going into education. This is it. So yeah.
You get to university, you're at University of Pretoria. Please just share a little bit about your experience in university, more so studying at the University of Pretoria, because sometimes people who watch these conversations, they want a little bit of insight into, I guess, like the different universities and sort of the feel and what you would get from the experience of being a University of Pretoria student, then continuing on to become an alumni with a B.Ed. Yeah. So your experience there in a nutshell.
Okay, so I get to UP Tax, and lo and behold, we have this beautiful, campus, the Groenkloof campus,
Yeah.
very serene, very intimate. And by that I mean we've got all these residents. It's quite small, very easy to navigate. Of course, the first few weeks when you've never seen such a big building is quite overwhelming. But I think for me, it really helped that I was in res, and I think we had lots of programs in res that kind of allowed us to kind of orient ourselves. I know orientation week as well, so we're given those opportunities, to kind of understand what it is, what it means to be a student. I think the first year for me was really more about being a student, not even an education student,
Yeah.
but being a student, kind of, and the programs ran, I think, slightly differently than they do now, in that back then. We had the first 3 years, we just, your theory years. So your first, second, third year, you attend your lectures, and no practicals. And only in the fourth year, then you go off to do your practicals. And I think that experience, we had a few frustrations back then, but I think after a while as well, a lot of us and myself, I know with a couple of other people, felt really ready when we're in fourth year, felt quite mature, we felt very knowledgeable, So I think for me, being at the University of Pretoria and the programs that were offered within the education, department were really, you know, they still play a critical role in my professional, development as an educator today, because I think we had a lot of time, extensive, training, extensive ways to do research, all these different, pedagogical, content that allowed us to kind of explore. So I would not know a lot about other institutions, but just my experience. And I do also acknowledge that the programs have probably undergone some changes since then. So I think it's worth really, talking to, yes, people like myself, but also
Yeah.
maybe finding out from the institutions as well what the offering could be. But I definitely know that today, for me, being a tax alumni, it's just getting into spaces where I meet a lot of people who actually went to tax. There's a lot of, familiarity in that regard. And I think for me, it's basically the readiness more than anything, you know. I mean, the fact that I even went back for my postgrad, it
Yeah.
says a lot as well. So yeah.
So would you say the training that you got as an educator really equipped you to step into the classroom?
I mean, then maybe, but now you just kind of learn, man. I mean, now there's a lot more experience.
Yeah.
No, back
However,
then, if I think
yeah.
of, yeah, I mean, if you think about, let's just look at the critical components, right? Like lesson planning. That was a very big, very heavily emphasized part. I know
Okay.
that, and understanding different philosophies as well and how that relates to, how we are as educators. I think that was really, really emphasized in university. And so going in, first year, first whatever, you just kind of, I think for me, it gave me the confidence because I at least knew what lesson planning looks like, what lesson, different lesson components are. So I do think that it gave me a lot of confidence when I was coming in and stuff. But I do also know and acknowledge as well that there's a lot more that you constantly learn as you, grow into the profession.
I know that right now universities are really trying their best to integrate like some kind of work integrated learning across the whole different faculties or departments of whatever courses that they do offer. So I don't know if this was the same during your time when you were in university, but I just want to understand if when it came to completing your fourth year, were there people coming in maybe to do presentations around being a novice teacher and stepping into the job market and preparing yourself to look for work and all that kind of stuff? Did you have those sort of programs which sort of equipped you in your job search post fourth year?
That's a very, very good question. And I know as you're posing that, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, did I really? I do remember, though, like a lot of opportunities pertaining to working abroad. I definitely remember those presentations. And
Okay.
honestly, I do think that we probably did not have as many opportunities with regards to, the job market within South Africa. And so what the case was because we've built these relationships with our resident sisters, our seniors,
Yeah.
they kind of offered that kind of mentorship, but
Oh.
one very, very deliberate session or something like that. I cannot recall one, but I do think that different departments also did different things. For example, I know the history department would have their own set of, ways in which they could equip the history teacher, and then maybe bring in someone who can explain, that bit. But I can't really point to a time that I said and I felt very confident in my job search. I think the the fourth year, the year of pracs. I'm just trying to think of the actual module. Anyways, the year of pracs, a lot of people, we're always encouraged to, just kind of present ourselves well and kind of, see ourselves as, professionals already. And in that way, you can kind of form those good work relationships with, the schools. And so a lot of people did end up going back to schools or working in schools that they did their pracs in.
Yeah.
Or no, well, if this person was already in that school and they knew somebody else, it was a lot of word of mouth back then as well. So yeah, I do think there's a lot. I do wish there was a lot more done though.
So then you graduate and you are now in the job market, you're looking for work and you start working in South Africa. How was that journey? I'd like for you to really paint sort of a detailed picture of your journey from graduating and then looking for work. What are some of the strategies that you put in place for yourself to ensure that you end up getting a post, and where did you end up going?
Okay. When I think of that very first time when you just realize now that, oops, yeah, no, yeah, no, now it's real. You need to get out there. Now you need to make money. Now you have to, now you must do something. Now,
Now
yeah,
you're an
go.
adult.
Now you must adult, not forget about that. Oh, I'm a first job, blah, blah, blah. Anyways,
Yeah.
it wasn't an easy one at all, especially because a lot of people advise you to, sort of go for what they call security. And if I must say, I
Mm,
think a lot of the times people would say, oh, no, get this type of post from this type of sector.
yeah.
It's a lot better, more benefits and so forth. So you kind of hold back from applying openly to maybe, for
Mm,
example, the private sector, in those private schools, because you're just already kind of closing off because you're thinking this, the only information I know, is this,
mm,
that public schools are probably better and for employment and stuff like that. So I think a lot of us wanted to get into those spaces because that's all we
yeah.
knew. Um,
Mm,
and so I get out there and it didn't go as well at the beginning because I think beginning of the school year as well, people sometimes schools don't know yet the posts are not available as yet, and sometimes they get available a few weeks later, especially
mm,
post the first enrollment and after a couple of weeks or even sometimes after a couple of months. And so I think within the second week of Jan I was like, "Oh, okay, so I'm unemployed, what to do?" So you're kind of scrolling and having a few unfortunate events where, there is a school calling you saying, hey, come through for an interview. There is, come in for an interview with X, blah, 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 blah people. And you come in and they don't show up. And so it kind of was a disheartening process at that time. But I do remember, just feeling very kind of low, and a bit discouraged as well. And I don't know, I think I just went on to Google and just went, teaching jobs, blah, blah, blah. But I came across ISASA, for example, and I just started scrolling and I'd see posts and I was like, oh, okay, well, this exists. And so for me, that was my experience. Just being able to scroll and start thinking, okay, maybe I should try apply for this because maybe this will work. But I do want to say though that a lot of us also were encouraged by our different, friends. Like I said, seniors, teachers, whatever, people that we probably met along the way in our fourth year already to start, polishing our CVs, and because you have a temporary certificate at that, or you can start applying for one temporarily within your fourth. At that time, I think we could within our fourth year, so
Yeah.
you could start applying for jobs. So they started kind of doing that. So you go ahead. So I do think that job search was definitely before the end of the year, but like I said, you start to be open to finding these jobs around whatever the last quarter of the year and stuff. And then boom, January comes and schools are just like, but yeah, so I ended up in a private school, my first year of work. So I'm getting in there and I'm just like, okay, cool. So what now? Fortunately, I think that particular school really, really emphasized a lot on professional development. So I think I
Yeah.
definitely learned a great deal of strategies and so forth. So I think I really gained a lot of confidence within my first year, definitely through that.
Okay, so you touched on something there, and a slight comparison between government posts and private school posts. A lot of times, as young professionals stepping into the job market, a lot of people advise you need to go for a government post because of the benefits, because of this, because of that. And given your experience today with where you are today, what sort of advice would you give to a young novice educator coming out of university right now and grappling with that same decision? Do I go private? Do I go public? Yeah, what sort of advice would you give them in terms of sort of making that decision?
Wow. So first of all, I think I would definitely just say that open yourself up, really go back into what makes the most sense. Not one thing is all finite. I mean, I did actually work in a public school at some point,
Yeah.
and one of my best times ever, in my entire career. So I must just say, so just because you don't get to do it in the first, year or two or three,
Yeah.
but again, it was because of, you build good relationships and you kind of open that network up. So I would say don't hold back, because I think that what's important, education needs you to, like, if you're ready to practice as an educator, it's very important to kind of, give yourself that grace and say, look, I need to kind of get into it. So if opportunities arise and they are, from a private school or private sector kind of side, and nothing yet on the public, don't hold back. Just look at it deeply and carefully, and same in the same breath as well. If there's something from more the public, because that's also another thing. Some people are like, oh no, there are these issues in public schools. Private is better for this. So, but just really think about yourself. I think when you're young as well, there are a lot more things to think about too, like
Yeah.
the location of the school, and where possible. I think it's hard in the very first year, as a novice teacher, to kind of think about where you want to be. But if you can and you've thought about that, you can also start to think about which space or which kind of school will give you the most support in terms of your professional development as well,
Yeah.
in terms of what it is that you would like to do. But again, maybe those are kind of difficult questions, difficult things to start to think about right at the
Yeah.
beginning. Yeah. So, but if that opportunity arises and you guys kind of think about it, please just rather sit and think about yourself first. But most importantly, open yourself up.
Yeah.
Open yourself up, ask around, go onto LinkedIn, please, and connect to people working. Please connect to people working in those particular schools, whatever schools you know about. Ask around, and build, again, like, you build those networks for yourself, and you will gain very valuable knowledge, from people. And again, think for yourself, and just kind of where you would fit and what you think you'd be comfortable with.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for that advice. Now you are in this private school. You've had this great experience in your first year. You've been equipped as a teacher, practicing in the field, and then you decide, you know what? I want to go overseas. What informs that, and how then is your experience when you get there? I'm not sure if you started with China or South Korea. Please just share and clarify that for us as you answer the
Okay.
question.
All right. So my journey sounds a little like this. Let me take you on a journey. All right. So I work in this private school. It wasn't great. I will just say it was good enough for me, to kind of equip
Uh-huh.
me, made very, very good connections, really, really. So that's one. But I had a conversation, with a friend who was at that time who had just moved to South Korea. And I remember in my own personal life, so this was basically a decision I made based on my personal life. I was like, no, I need something. I need to do something. I just have this burning desire to do something a little bit different, with my life. And I remember a friend of mine, she had come home for the holidays and she looked at me and she was like, yeah, man, and I just had my baby as well. So I think I was just going through a lot as well. So she just said, yeah, just take your baby. I remember because she was holding my baby. She's like, yeah, just take your baby and just move to Asia. I think at that time she said South Korea, but in my mind I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. So I started thinking about it a lot more often.
Yeah.
But professionally, so yes, I said personally, I was just like, yeah, I kind of need, a different scene, so to speak. But professionally, because in that particular school that I was at, the private school, I was a subject teacher, a particular subject. And, I just felt like there was more I could do. I loved it.
Yeah.
I was really great at it. I was really enjoying it. And I knew that there was opportunities for me to kind of advance in that particular school, in terms of
Yeah.
maybe leadership but something like that, right? But I just felt like I only know this one thing. I'm like, nah, there's something missing. How about I just go and just, play around with a couple of subjects, grades, and see, just feel comfortable and confident enough to just, teach various disciplines, within
Yeah.
education. So that's how the decision came about. And I think I thought about it for a long time. I think I worked on it for a good 8 months-ish,
Yeah.
getting my documents right, thinking about the best place to go to. I initially thought going to like the UAE made more sense. I thought it was closer and blah, blah, blah. But I eventually, after a couple of, no, not a couple, a lot of interviews where I got rejected, guys, one way. And obviously that's very disheartening. And I share that because, sometimes people think, ah, yeah, no, when you just woke up, bah, got a job in China, no. So various rejections and stuff like that, obviously. But I just went, I'll keep trying until I had this wonderful opportunity to join a school, a private school in Shanghai, China,
Okay.
and the international division, and to come in as a homeroom teacher. And I was like, what is that? Anyway, class teacher. So I was like, okay, cool. Now I have to get the things in. Get to the school. So wait, get the job. Come to the school. I'm like, okay, cool. Love this. Love it. Love it. Love it. It's growing. I could really feel myself just really growing professionally. And then because I was 2019, bah, COVID
Oh my God.
at this moment, because when I actually moved the first time, I left my child behind because I just wanted to go and check it out first, like what's
Yeah.
happening there. I did not know much. And so, I'm just here, but now COVID and, borders are closed at the time that I'm supposed to come back or like go home, get my baby back and stuff, come back here with her. I couldn't do that. So, yeah, so I stay a good year, after the year and a half trying, borders are closed. I'm like, yeah, guys, I can't do this. And that's when I made the decision to move back home. And again, that was based on a personal
Yeah.
reason. So then I moved back home and yeah.
Yeah, it's such an interesting story. But now that you are back in South Africa, I'd like for you to also just share this part. I always say I find this part to be missing in a lot of like content creators. We see the high of you moving abroad. People tend to show, the traveling and all the other, enjoyment stuff that you do as an expert. However, when it comes time for them, maybe they decide to come back to South Africa, we don't get to hear much about then what happens when you come back home. Are you now unemployed? Do you get a job? Does your experience of teaching abroad benefit you in any way when it comes to now looking for work in South Africa? Yeah, so I would like for you to then share that with us, your experience with you've taught in South Africa, you move abroad, and then you come back to South Africa. What does it do for you professionally on the job search front?
Okay. Thank you. So I want to highlight two very important things in my
Yeah,
experience. One, when I moved back home, I had just started my master's,
yeah,
and my master's with the University of Pretoria. So in my mind, I always thought, you know what? This is your chance. Go into higher education, babes. Just go, just And so that time, I just thought, okay, cool. I have that, to kind of look forward to. So I had something to do. But yes, I come home, I'm unemployed, and I kind of chilled it out. I was like, I'm a student. Let me just chill it out. But money runs out, guys. So your
no,
savings will
yeah, but
run.
also I think it's important that you emphasize that part that the chill it
Money
out
runs
was not because you did not
out.
have money. You had
Yeah,
savings from your work, so you could chill it
yeah.
out for a bit.
Yeah. But unfortunately for me, I think I was very, very fortunate to actually start a job before I felt the need to start one. Before I was like, oh, I really need to start.
Before you
I
were
was,
completely
yeah,
dry.
yeah. So again, I'll go back to say you always form those positive work relationships. You always make sure you leave a mark. Like wherever you
Yeah.
go, make sure, but anyways, yeah, so go through a couple of, I ask around, what's there? I'm like, I'm chilled. At that moment, I'm like, I'm chilled. Actually, I just want to do something part-time. And I was very fortunate to actually get a job with, a school in a public school. And in my mind, I was like, oh, this is fantastic because, I really wanted to be in this space. So that was, I don't want to lie, that was very easy for me, but I do know that it's not easy at all because when that contract ended, then I started looking for a job.
Okay.
Especially because I wanted something similar, wanted to be
All
in that
right.
space. I went through, a lot of, searches. I would go drop my CV off at schools, whatever that was out there. I was like, okay, I want to try this, I want to try this, I want to try that, but it wasn't so easy. And what I did realize though that for me, when I applied at the private schools, I actually got more, like responses, from there. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it seems, to them, at least that time, that's what I thought, that it was okay, cool. This person is a teacher, experience counts. But that's also because I was in a classroom setting. I was in
Okay.
an actual school. So that I think maybe those type of things also matter. It's worth really asking and finding out, even when you go and move abroad and work as an educator, it's very important to kind of, find out if you are in a credible type of environment. Like, does this count? Does this make sense? Is it recognized? Is
Ooh,
it
you've touched on
evaluated?
something. You've touched on something that I've actually never thought of before. Thank you, Nomonde. Like now, I've heard people talking about, I've heard people talking about teaching in what I think it's called language centers and things like that. And you've taught like at an international school. I think that's the point you're trying to bring across. That when you do take up these opportunities abroad, really look into the environment or the school you're going to. So it's not just about I need a job and I just want money. Think
For
about how
sure.
it's going to impact your career.
That really did aid me, as I
Yeah.
ended up, getting, a teaching role as well. I think in a very good environment as well.
Fine, you teach in South Africa, and from what we are gathering from your experience, you did not go through like a lot of hardship. And I say hardship in a sense that for me, if you're looking for work, anywhere between what 0 to 12 months, for me that's a reasonable time. Well, that's still too much. Maybe 0 to 6 months, that's reasonable. But anything after that 6 months to like a year, 2 years of being unemployed, I think you really start becoming very discouraged and demotivated in your job search. So from what you're explaining, I gather that it wasn't extremely hard, and also it's important to formulate those networks wherever you're working, even within your fellow student colleagues or even at work, so that if you do come back and decide to get back into work in South Africa, you already have those few people that you know who can connect you with the relevant opportunities. You're in South Africa, you're teaching in South Africa, you're completing your masters. Did you then complete the masters and then move abroad, or you moved while still working on your masters?
So I want to just take a few steps back a bit and say,
Okay.
you talk about how it wasn't a hard process, and there could be someone, who's watching this saying, yeah, no, see, I can't relate to this person already. And fair.
Yeah.
But I also want to say, for me, it is the importance of knowing that you are a brand. A friend of
Yeah.
mine spoke and I spoke about this and a few weeks ago. And I do remember telling another friend as well in my previous school in South Africa as well that you are a brand. You literally you do everything you do in your power to make sure that you protect that brand.
Mm.
You yourself because then you are what people want you don't
Yeah.
even have to be that person. You just work so hard. It's not even working hard in a sense that you're going to be the one person who's going to be there first and like leave late. No, your CV speaks for itself, your work speaks
Yeah.
for itself, your
Yes.
personality, all of that. And so for me, I just definitely want to say, in addition to the networks, it's definitely
Mm.
how much you're adding to yourself because then you are a brand. Then they want to be associated with Nomonde because this is,
Goodness.
now you're
Yeah.
coming in, you're like, oh yeah, master's in progress. So it's you think about it, they're sitting like, yeah, no, yeah, gold.
Mm.
So I think it's very important to think of yourself as like when we think of upskilling ourselves and we think of all these, PDs, professional development workshops and stuff, do it. Even those free ones on YouTube, like even watching your podcast, is it
Yeah.
can really aid someone in really developing themselves, and then they gain that
Mm.
confidence, and it kind of exudes in the way that you talk about yourself in interviews, even the way that you apply for a job, those things.
Yeah.
So that's the
Yes.
one. And then so fast forward into, being in the space, I complete my master's. And by the time I completed the master's, I think at that point I was like, look, I love it here. I love my job. I really did. I was having a good time. But I just felt like I was missing something again. I was like,
Mm.
I don't think my journey in Shanghai is over. And once again,
Yeah.
we spoke about building those networks. Case in point, I returned to the very same school that I was actually working in at the beginning
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
actually came here
Okay.
before. So
Mm.
now I'm coming. Now I am, way more mature. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I have my family and my mom and my baby with me.
Yeah.
So I have my family, so I'm obviously, in a better space in so many ways. And I'm very confident as well. I've also gained a lot of, skills and I can start to think of where I wanna go in terms of my profession. So for me coming back as well is like one of those, it's still one of those, okay, so what now, Nomonde? So how are we working on this? And I think,
Mm.
yeah, that's where it's
Okay.
at.
All right. Look, I like the fact that you took us back a little bit and touched on the whole we should be very intentional about carrying ourselves as brands.
Yeah.
Also, I think maybe elaborate on that and just speak to our listeners as well, especially for those who are also just not working. Someone is looking at you and they're thinking, oh, I already have this degree. She's talking about a brand. What can I do now? I mean, I don't have a job, but I've got the qualification. How do I build my brand? Nobody has given me the opportunity to even step into the classroom and prove myself. So, how do you build your brand then from that place where you're a recent graduate? And the job is not there. How do I build my brand?
So reach out, like be a pest if you need to. Reach out to people you really feel like you can really connect to. I have a couple of, what fourth year students. That sounds weird when I say it like that, but people I met
Yeah.
who were either student teachers and I was their mentor teacher, or maybe I met them just somewhere and they talk to me and they go, hey, I'm trying to do this, what do you think of this, can I? And I think it's nice because then we built that relationship as well, and they also able to ask questions, and I'm able to be there to kind of support, and if I don't, I can refer them to somebody who can. So I definitely think, definitely reach out to somebody, go reach out to somebody, ask those questions, but also research. Go into those groups, go into LinkedIn, go onto all these spaces, but really, like really talk to people. What is really you can find out a lot of things if you know that this whole thing on inquiry based learning is now a thing. People are, or AI in education, whatever the case may be. Reach out, see those people posting those things, and see if you can follow. But just be in the loop. And I know, like I said, it can be very discouraging. I understand, but really reach out to people because then good relationships can be built. It's a little bit harder when you're obviously leaving that, the school, like the education space, the schooling space. Does that make sense? Yeah, and going
Yeah,
into the world of
varsity. Yeah.
yeah, but I would strongly suggest that when you are actually in the space, because I think I can relate a little. Those who are in the space already, in the education space already, can relate a lot better with what I'm saying right now. Reach out to people, ask if you see somebody doing something and that is exceptional. Ask, hey, what is this about? Because you're
Yeah.
constantly learning, and so that's how you build up your brand. And as you're going into education, ask around, okay, hey, so what are the current, trends in education? What are the newer strategies? What are people talking about with this? How can I do that? Even something as simple as, hey, so how do I start to look for a job? Don't be afraid to reach out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd say the biggest thing is because you build those relationships, and from the relationships, you know, at least you have a network.
Now that you've got a master's, yeah, let's talk about the masters. And the reason I say let's talk about the masters is because for our qualified teachers who are watching this, joining our conversation today, and we want to give them something to walk away with. So you decide you want to upskill, you're going to equip yourself, go on and complete a master's. Before I go in depth about the questions about the masters, I just want to understand what sort of skills does obtaining a master's give you from your experience, obviously? What skills would you say you gained from completing that master's? And also, if you don't mind sharing, you can share with us, the master's that you completed, your specialization specifically.
Okay. So yeah, man, I'm a curious person. I can talk. I can talk and I like to ask. Yeah, no, so I think so I say that because that's actually what kind of pushed me into, going for a master's. It was really based on a legitimate question. I was like, yeah, guys, it happened around COVID. I was like, yeah, so I mean, how are people gonna learn if they have to stay at home? I mean, online, Souther. There was a lot of questions because then I have a lot of teacher friends, and they're sharing, oh yeah, no, we're staying at home. Yeah, it's locked down. And so I was like, yeah, no, but how? Kids will be left behind. It's already a lot, on the system. And so
Yeah.
that's how my actual research came about. And so for me, I did a full dissertation on learning in a pandemic, and specifically looking at how learners from low-income communities in South Africa learned during a pandemic. Again, that stemmed from my curiosity, my concern. I was legitimately concerned, like I said. And so I decided to tap into that because I think for me, I've always said that I really want to be able to be in a position to contribute to, education immensely, and I want to grow into it. I want to go into higher education and, go into school of education, like where we train and prepare teachers, and
Yeah.
where we yeah, be getting there. And so for me, it comes from that. My honors was actually in teacher education and professional development, so that's kind of like my thing. I really love to
Okay.
know from that perspective and that side. Yeah, so I did a full dissertation, and so for me, the main important skill is like the critical thinking skill, research skill, and I think it's very important to go into that. I want to highlight though that depending on what kind of masters you do, where you do it, because you will soon learn, when you leave home as well, that masters sounds and looks very different sometimes in other countries, because sometimes there are people saying, yeah, I'm doing a master's in education, I'm getting my teaching license, and I'm like, you're doing your master's and you're getting your teaching license same time, isn't that, so it was a bit confusing for me. So for me, I'm just going to specifically talk for the South African context right now.
Yeah.
So for me, my understanding that within, usually it is when it kind of prepares you for the world of academics, the academia, you
Okay.
know
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that making that decision should come from your why, establishing your why. Why do I want to do this? What is my end goal? Where am I trying to go? Do I just want it because I don't want to be out of a job, but then, or do I want it because this is where I want to see myself? And not only am I going to obtain this qualification, but again, those networks I'm going to build, these programs I'm going to be a part of, are they going to propel me into being where I want to be? So I think that's always the major question. Should I do this? And when people ask, oh, should I be doing this? I don't think it's going to be necessary. I'm like, but right now, what do you feel? Should I do my honors in the learning support and stuff? I'm like, but how relevant, like, how are you, why do you want to do it? Once you
Yeah.
established your why, then pick it up from there and ask, okay, is it worth having a whole entire master's program? Because then you're going to really depend a lot. There's going to be a lot of research. The research component is, quite heavy, and
Yeah.
so because it prepares you to make valuable contributions in academia, you
Yeah.
know, or would you do, shorter courses maybe that kind of give you the very, those skills, like hands-on skills in how to
Yeah.
support you. So kind of those are the type of things that I would then say it just really depends. So once you establish your why, so I wouldn't say, hey, everybody now needs to go get a master's, or everybody, you really need to understand why. What is your why, and what kind of program would you go for? And I do understand that there would be a difference between a full dissertation and coursework
Research. Yeah.
dissertation. Yeah.
Okay.
I
All
hope
right.
I'm
I like the fact that we actually just touched on this coursework and research over a dissertation. For people at home who are watching who are not sure, because when you do go on these websites, you do see the masters, there's the coursework, and then there's the masters with the dissertation. And usually with the dissertation, the requirements are a bit higher. Yeah, so I don't know if you did do some thorough research before deciding on going into the dissertation. If you've done that, please just shed some light with our viewers as to what is the real difference between the two.
I wish I knew the extensive one, but I'll just base it off of my
Yeah.
experience and I think the
Yes.
experience of a good friend of mine. So in my understanding with the coursework, you would still have say now your master's by coursework, you would still have the very content heavy components. So your assignments,
Yeah.
your tasks, your examinations, like your all the things, and then half dissertation. So, but that's still a very important component
Yes.
as part of that. So, for instance, in learning support, oh no, not learning support, educational psychology, for instance, like
Yeah.
I know a friend of mine had to go through, that because you need the content, you need the actual, you still need a lot more than what is probably offered in undergrad and in honors, so maybe just a little
Okay.
bit of a step further in still giving that, but still giving that research components because you're making, a valuable contribution into that
Okay.
particular field. And for me, in my case, it's more in the humanities education side. So yeah, it was mainly what kind of knowledge can be created from this. So what do we now know about this topic? How can we pull from that? And what is it that we want? What is the goal? What is the purpose of this research? What direction do I want it to take? Or do we hope for it to take?
Okay.
So I think but then what it would look like would be you then going through the different, research proposal, in your defense, where you defend your research and your final dissertation, your whole 6 chapter or 7 chapter, five, 6 chapter, full dissertation, and that's what is your actual work. That's what you get. What I say assessed on. I'm such a teacher, but that's kind of what what gets assessed. Yeah.
Oh, okay. In fact, the reason why I do ask this question is because I think when I was doing a little bit of research around the difference is, I then gathered that most of the education professionals who are interested in going into academia, of which, teaching in higher education, that type of work does require a lot of, researching and you have to
For
publish
sure.
articles and all of that. And they do recommend that you actually do the masters with a dissertation. However, this is not to say if you do the masters with coursework and a minor dissertation, it doesn't mean you've completely lost your chance of getting the opportunity to lecture one day or going into higher education. However, I think it's just a recommendation there.
Yeah. I'm not very
Yeah.
sure, but I
Yeah.
would I don't think my certificate says with full, so I don't think it matters. It really is about the department.
I see
Yeah,
with
so
full, but I like
it
how you're saying. I
doesn't.
don't think I don't think your certificate. But the thing is, when you do
It
apply
just
for
says
work, these are
when
the
you've completed
that,
M.Ed, when I would half of full. I'll go home and I'll check. I'll check when I'm home, but I don't think so. But in
yeah. But
short,
also no. I think the point that I'm trying to bring across here with what you're saying is the certificate might not say it. However, when you actually are in that room competing for the job, those are the things you're
okay,
going to discuss. Where they're going to be like, "Oh, your dissertation," and then the other one will have to speak on their coursework. That sort of a thing. So, I think when it comes to making these decisions, you really have to do extensive and thorough research. Why should I
for
do
sure.
coursework over a dissertation? Yeah. All right.
And
Um.
sorry,
But
Margaret,
yeah.
I just want to say I think I missed a very important part of your question.
Mm,
Thorough research. So I think going through the different institutions, for me, I was still
mm,
based in China at that time, but was like, listen, I want to study at home. Still, and I really took full advantage of, the COVID because then I could do it online at that time.
yes.
So I just kind of really looked at, I went in, I said, what is this institution? What is the deal here? What are the different offerings? So depending as well
Mm,
on what you want and if you're already in the profession, I think sometimes people just say, oh, yeah, it doesn't even matter, your salary doesn't change. I really don't know much about that. And I'm very curious as well to find out what difference it really makes in terms of being, in SA. Like, does it make a major difference if you're coming in with, your master's now, or you've completed your master's and you're, class teacher? Does that kind of, take it up a notch in terms of your actual salary or whatever? That's something person I'm very, very curious about.
okay.
Yeah,
All right. Okay, that's great. Then I'm not going to ask you the question on salaries. You literally just went, I don't know. I'm also
like
curious.
that.
I'm also curious
Yeah,
to know. That means I need to speak to someone who can feed our curiosity around the
for
whole
sure,
salary
for sure.
conversation. However, yeah, thank you so much. I think one of the biggest things that I've gathered from our conversation today is be intentional, know your why. And also, if you start feeling that I gotta move, there's something bigger out there for me. Do the research and pursue the things that fill your heart with fire, the things that excite you. I don't know if you are comfortable with sharing. Are you going to be coming back to South Africa at any point? Do you see yourself contributing to the South African education? Um, yeah, maybe in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. Yeah, do you see yourself coming back home to serve our nation?
100%. Yeah, no, SA has my heart. Really, I started this journey with a goal in mind, and that was to contribute to the South African education system. And I think everything,
Okay.
even my move, and even all the skills that I am constantly acquiring, and the knowledge I'm
Yeah.
you know, gaining as well. For me, it is about being
Mm.
able to take that, cultivate it, and kind of be able
Yeah.
to serve still. So I think that has not changed in any way. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm really looking forward to being back in SA at some point, and hopefully
Yeah.
by then I would have, there's a certain maybe a title
Of
change here and
course.
there,
Of course.
just saying,
Hmm.
miss, many qualifications there in education. Maybe
Yeah.
something's in the pipeline, no, definitely something in the pipeline, that I'm definitely looking very forward to doing, very soon. So I think that will also definitely equip me with, ample opportunity, number one, to be able to contribute immensely. So yeah, definitely will come back. Yeah.
Okay, before we close it off, I would like for you to maybe just think about, is there anything that I did not ask you today or that I did not touch on that you feel is important that you'd like to share with our viewers? This is your chance to head the conversation and take the lead.
Okay, I think I get a lot of questions from people asking about, oh, teaching abroad and, what do I do? Where do I start? And I think those are
Yeah,
very good, very, very good, questions, and I'm always happy to help. But I do think that I would like to encourage people to always just don't be afraid of reading. Don't be afraid of researching. Type up that question. Google is your friend.
yeah,
Really do find out a lot and equip yourself with the necessary skills. If you know that there's a certain requirement that is, that's there and you don't have it, find ways that you can actually make that something that you actually acquire, so that you can feel more and more confident. So yeah, definitely do a lot of research. When you're thinking of moving abroad as well, um, invest in yourself a lot in terms of knowing different curricula, different teaching styles, teaching best practices. Yeah, because with that confidence and stuff, you will definitely be able to get a lot of opportunities. Again, China is not the only place. So I'm
yes,
saying China is not the only place. So if you're looking to be international, anything outside of South African borders is international. There are lots of international schools. In and around South Africa too. So really do put yourself out there. Don't be afraid. Might think, a school is in Ghana. Yeah, no, no, but it might be a really good opportunity. Or a school is in Paraguay and whatever. But really do open yourself up. If you want to be an international school teacher, open yourself up to more than just, okay, I've seen everybody going to China. I think this is the only place. No. Go find out, be on those recruitment page websites, but obviously credible ones. Look
yeah,
at the trends of what is required in different countries. So open your again, going back to that, open yourself up
yeah.
to different places within your teaching, your international teaching pursuit. Yeah,
Okay.
and
No.
I've got one more thing I want to say.
Okay.
Margaret, this is actually to you. I just want to say that you're doing an incredible job. I think when I look back and if I had, a platform such as yours and people like you to give us the information, let us make it possible for us to just scroll and be able to get all this information, I
Yeah.
think I really would have also benefited a lot of the times previously. I'm grateful for my life now, but I mean, I know in a lot of ways,
Mm,
even as someone in high school, leaving high school, trying to get into maybe university, study education, there's so much more. So I think you're doing an incredible job. I really
oh,
wish you a
thank
lot of success in this, and yeah, I just think you're doing an amazing job. And another huge shout out to South African teachers. Yo, you guys are the
you.
cream of the crop. Like,
Yay!
you are it for me. Like
The bomb diggity.
I brag about South African teachers. Even here,
Yeah.
guys, yo, no, they're doing the most. But yeah, but back home as well. I think I've met some of the most wonderful teachers, young, old. Yeah, so please don't ever sit and think we are not doing enough. I think teachers are super amazing. SA teachers.
Now, before we close off the show, I've got two questions, and it's up to you which one you decide to answer. The first one is, it could be something good or something bad, but like, which lesson, when you go back and think back, would you say that's the lesson that really set me on my path, and what has been your biggest sacrifice in getting to where you are?
Okay, so so I've definitely sacrificed. I do if I go back a bit. I've at some point sacrificed watching my daughter grow for like over a year,
Oh,
so that
okay.
I could, kind of create this kind of life for us. And it was
Yeah.
tough then, but I look back now and we're fine now. But it was a very tough time in my life. I
Yeah.
think for me, I've sacrificed really living whatever the dream family life. And I know I'm getting a little bit more personal here, just so that I
Yeah.
could focus on and really fight for my dreams. I think
Yeah.
a couple of lessons there as well. And I think my biggest lesson, or something, things that have happened, rejection. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I say this, the rejection from interviews, rejection from everything. I've had to look back, and I think I would have really I wouldn't have been here. I would have actually been in spaces where I was not going to be, appreciated and so forth. So for
Yeah.
me, I think the biggest lessons are definitely the rejections. I've had way more rejections than you can
Then you
imagine.
have to do
And
this.
a lot of
Yeah.
times people think, yo, you have it easy. Yeah, it's all good. No, I've had to kind of go through a couple of those, some hurts as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, we're here now. We're glowing and growing, so I think definitely that. So don't take every and any rejection as a complete no. Find ways to kind of come back and say, okay, so what
Yeah.
now? Ask yourself and say,
Yes.
okay, cool. What do I have at my disposal? Can I take it slower? Can I breathe a bit and I'll get there? Let me take it slower. Let me ask for help. Let me take a moment, something like that. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Nomonde, for joining us, gracing us with your presence on this channel. I appreciate it so much, and I am so inspired by your life's journey and your professional career journey. It's really inspiring. You're doing a lot of amazing and great work that I think young teachers on the come up should be on the lookout and check you out and follow your journey because you're doing really amazing things. I'm super proud of you. And I can't wait for the title change. I'll bring you back to the channel and we'll throw a party. Now you see, I'm already promising you the rewards. Well, I'm promising you what the reward will be. So you have to go after it now. The
Guys, the
reward will be
pressure,
a
but now I
party.
feel you.
So yeah, thank you so much for joining us here on Rewind the Lesson. And until we see each other next time, bye.
Bye, Margaret. Bye bye.
Welcome to our international teaching series right here on Rewind the Lesson. In this exciting series, we are bringing South African teachers face to face with incredible opportunities beyond our borders. From innovative teaching methods to enriching cultural experiences, we are exploring it all. Join us as we chat with teachers who have ventured abroad, sharing their stories, insights, and of course, tips to inspire your own journey. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss an episode.